This is Aperture. This is Aperture. Hello all. My name is Eric Anderson Mobu. I am a resident of Madison, Wisconsin. I am an African American, so dubbed, after my immigration from Ivory Coast. A little bit about me. I have my Associates of Science from Madison College. I have my Bachelor's of Arts degree from University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee in English, Literature, and Cultural Theory, Track C. And I intend to continue my education. A couple of things. Actually, many, very many things. What I see happening in America today is abysmal. It has almost a non-categorical nomenclature that I can ascribe to its current existence. We are now witnessing the dirty underbelly of what America is. There is a conversation happening. A conversation at the intersection of culture and theory. There's an intersection and even an intersectional conversation happening at the nexus of belief. If we do not address this circumstance as it is now, we are done. I am not trying to doom and gloom you. I am not trying to assuage a moral high ground. I am simply speaking to you, not even as a politician, not even as a neighbor, but as a friend. I come before you because I am concerned on your behalf in light of the stream of recent events. I am concerned because of the regrettable deaths and acts of violence that have dominated our national conversation. These events have reminded us of how fragile life can be and how deeply violence affects our communities. Right now, America is in a state of grief. The stages of grief, as we understand them, are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. One thing I have learned about grief is that none of these stages can truly be skipped. More often than not, they overlap until we eventually reach acceptance. A message shared by a grieving family member, "Go to church," deeply resonated with me. I am beginning to understand that healing requires community. In the past, I attended Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. It is hallmarked as an LGBTQ safe church, and I remember shedding tears when I first attended. One thing I have realized is that at this moment, this is not about black or white. It is about whether we choose to believe that America can become greater than she is today. We can choose racism, the belief that every person of a certain race, creed, or lineage should be judged by the actions of a few. Or we could choose another path. We could choose understanding, we could choose compassion. We could choose what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. described as love as our greatest strength. Instead of destruction, I believe in creation. Instead of allowing anger to consume us, I believe in transforming anger into something constructive. Creation requires effort. It requires sitting down at a table and putting pen to paper. It requires taking a paintbrush and placing color on a canvas. It requires the courage to imagine something better. While I live in a predominantly democratic state, I recognize that I lean ideologically to the right. However, I believe our political differences should not ever prevent us from recognizing our shared humanity. Violence has become a persistent issue in our nation. Systemic injustice may contribute to some circumstances, but it can never remove personal responsibility. Accountability still matters. Regardless of what solutions we implement, violence often appears at the most tragic and unexpected moments. Many Americans struggle to understand what we feel and why we feel it. We may feel uncertainty. We may feel frustration. We may feel disconnected from one another. Yet we must remain calm. As we mourn, we must mourn with those who mourn. But we must not become consumed by bitterness, hatred, or despair. It is upon this mountain that we face one of our greatest challenges. We must look towards the summit rather than cast ourselves into hopelessness. Moments like these require self-reflection. They require us to examine ourselves honestly. They require us to acknowledge our mistakes and accept responsibility. Personal accountability is the foundation of progress. Sometimes the hardest words we can say are "I was wrong." Those words are not a sign of weakness. They are a sign of growth. On regarding the responsibility of words, one of the lessons I continue to learn is that our words matter. They have the power to heal. They also have the power to harm. In today's political climate, we often hear language that reduces human beings to categories rather than recognizing them as individuals. We hear harsh rhetoric directed toward those experiencing homelessness, people living with mental illness, immigrants, political opponents, and many others. I believe we can choose a different path. It is for this reason that we gather together, not to ignore our differences, but to confront violence with wisdom, compassion, and courage. My name is Eric Anderson Momu, pronounced Eric Momu. It has always amused me that my surname sounds similar to the sound a cow makes. Even my bank card bears the markings of a dairy cow. Some may call that coincidence, but I simply smile and appreciate the irony. I stand before you as an American citizen, and as an African-born man who now identifies as an African-American living in Wisconsin. I also stand before you as someone who believes every human life possesses dignity. My significant other and I are not what many people would consider a conventional couple. She is white, I am black. Our relationship reminds me that history is never far behind us, but neither is hope. We come from different backgrounds and different experiences, yet we have learned to meet one another with grace. That, I believe, is part of what America can become. After visiting the Meadow Ridge Library, my significant other and I crossed the street together to Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. There was food waiting for everyone. I confess that I should not have indulged too much. I have been trying to lose weight, but I was struck by the kindness and generosity present among those that gathered there. Compassion often begins with something simple: a meal, a conversation, a willingness to see another person. Some time ago, I wrote that man shall not live by bread alone. while reflecting upon the rising cost of food and the economic pressures facing many families. The meaning behind those words was not that food isn't important. Food is essential. Rather, I believe human beings require more than physical nourishment. We also hunger for hope. We hunger for dignity. We hunger for belonging. How many parents have struggled simply to provide food for their children? How many people have worked tirelessly only to find the necessities of life continue to become more difficult to afford? Too many. Too many families have also suffered the pain of losing loved ones to violence. Every life matters. It does not matter whether a person is black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Ukrainian, Palestinian, African, European, or any other background. A human life is a human life. That belief guides my conscience. If anger leads us towards destruction, then our conscience must call us back towards compassion. I have witnessed moments when people choose service over division. I remember seeing people who had themselves experienced hardship step forward to help others during times of crisis. Those moments remind me that redemption is possible. People are capable of choosing the common good. For much of my life, I felt pressure to think only in ways that others considered acceptable. Over time, I learned that true freedom requires examining our own assumptions, listening carefully, and remaining willing to learn. Freedom is not only political. Freedom is also freedom of conscience, freedom of thought, freedom to question, freedom to recognize the humanity of others. We stand upon the shoulders of giants. The voices of those who came before us remind us that every generation has a responsibility. We are entrusted with the future. That is why I hope to work alongside community organizations, faith communities, mental health professionals, educators, artists, neighborhood leaders, first responders, and public servants in reducing violence. I believe meaningful change requires cooperation. It requires courage. It requires humility. And it requires all of us. There have been personal journeys through mental health and faith that many have had. There came a difficult turning point in my life. It was a season in which I had failed people who deserved better from me, and I found myself standing at a moral crossroads. What happened afterward is something I describe only as a deeply personal experience. I recognize that not everyone will interpret such experiences in the same way, and I respect that. I share this story not as an instruction for others, but as a testimony of my own journey. As I walked home from the library one afternoon, I began hearing whispers in my mind. At first, I questioned what I was experiencing. I wondered whether stress, exhaustion, or something else entirely had affected me. The experience was frightening. For me, hearing voices was confusing, isolating, and difficult to understand. Whether viewed through faith, psychology, or medicine, I believe these experiences deserve compassion rather than shame. Mental health is a conversation we must continue having. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the DSM-5, provides medical professionals with a framework for understanding psychiatric conditions. These resources exist so that people can receive care, support, and understanding. Although I have not been diagnosed with schizophrenia or any said condition, my experience taught me the importance of taking mental health seriously. No person should suffer alone. During that period of my life, I experienced what felt like many voices occurring at once. It was overwhelming, like a patchwork, telephone lines. It felt as though many conversations were happening simultaneously, each competing for my attention. In that confusion, I searched for peace, and I found myself drawn toward Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. When I reached the doors of the church, I experienced a sense of calm. I found kindness. I found people willing to welcome a stranger. Whether someone understands that moment through faith, community, or personal reflection, it becomes a turning point for them. It certainly was for me. Later, while standing at a bus stop in the rain, I prayed. I was raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and prayer had always been important in my life. That day, my prayer became a prayer of surrender. I asked for guidance. I asked for peace. I asked for the strength to become a better man. In my own understanding of that experience, I felt called toward Jesus Christ. I recognize that others may understand such moments differently, and I do respect that. But for me, it became the beginning of healing. The fear began to give way to hope. The confusion began to give way to purpose. The isolation began to give way to community. That journey eventually led me here. On art, creation, and the work ahead, that experience inspired the stories that I wrote. I write in the tradition of magical realism because I believe imagination can reveal emotional truths that facts alone sometimes cannot express. Writers such as Isabel Allende, Paulo Coelho, and Jorge Luis Borges have shown me that literature can connect the visible world with the unseen struggles of the human heart. Through writing, I do not seek escape from reality. I seek deeper understanding of it. I believe artists have an essential role in healing society. A painting can preserve memory. A poem can give language to grief. A novel can allow us to experience another's humanity. And even a song can bring comfort to a wounded spirit. Creation is the opposite of destruction. Every act of creation is a declaration that life is worth protecting. That is why I believe we must work with artists, builders, educators, and community leaders to discover the excellent within ourselves and within one another. The American Consortium Against Gun Violence on Account of All Children is built upon that principle. That prevention requires more than laws alone. It requires relationships. It requires compassion. It requires communities willing to listen. So now, I invoke of a call to action. If we hope to make America greater than she has ever been, greatness cannot be measured only by wealth or power. It must also be measured by mercy, by our willingness to forgive, by our courage to admit that we are wrong, by our determination to protect those who cannot protect themselves, and by our commitment to leave this nation better than we found it. Before anger, pause. Before hatred, listen. Before judgment, reflect. Before violence, choose peace. Create something beautiful. Help someone who is struggling. Speak words that heal rather than wound. Offer hope where others expect despair. If each of us does these things, then together we can accomplish something extraordinary. May God bless those who mourn. May God strengthen those who serve. May God comfort those who suffer. And may God grant us the wisdom to become peacemakers for our children, our neighbors, and generations yet to come. Thank you. God bless you all.